I would like to also echo Daphne, like to welcome all of you. We truly always appreciate you coming here to these briefings. These are important briefings that we have as a company to share with you where we are. We usually also go back to what is it that we promised in the last briefing. How did we do against that? What is it that we are going to be, what is our outlook for the coming period? And in this case, we're also going to be sharing with you a little bit about the strategy going forward. So for me, I would also like to really welcome my colleagues here, being the Group Exco. These are the people that are leading this company. They are the ones that are setting the tone. I also would like to welcome some of the employees that are here, and also certainly I would like to also welcome the media, our friends from the media. So with those a few words, I'd like to just get into my presentation. As you will probably would have expected, when we're looking back into how did we do in the winter month, because all of us are experiencing the Eskom, we all are living in this country, we probably have a sense of how we did. I would like to take really for me this opportunity on behalf of the board to thank the leadership of Eskom, to thank also the employees of Eskom for making sure that we went through all of the winter without load shedding. This is really an important development. Many people always say, hey, how can you praise a fish for swimming? It's an interesting position that those people are saying, but certainly sitting here as the board, looking at some of the challenges that this team is facing, we always feel like we need to make sure that we encourage, we recognize improvement, we recognize progress. You know, in our world, what we always like to see in our world is, you know, today must always be better than yesterday, and tomorrow must be better than today. If that continues, if that happens, to us, that is progress. And this is really what we continue to see being done by this leadership of Eskom. So I really would like to thank you, Dan, together with your EXCO colleagues for driving this really important agenda. I'm not going to be talking about the system as such, but because of where we are now, we are in a position where we're starting to see that load shedding is going to be, at some point in the near future, something that is going to be behind us. I would like to share a little bit with you our view, you know, as the board. What is it that we look at, you know? When we say that we want to turn around this company, what are those elements that we need to be looking at? Perfect. So as the board, we looking. This is really our global view as we think about Eskom, and as we think about this turnaround that we are trying to do here in Eskom. For us, when we arrived here, we identified these 9 systemic issues that this business is facing, and we have categorized them into operational, financial, and sustainability. And in terms of the big issues on the operational side, we talk about the unreliability of the plant, in particular the coal fleet. We also have a big systemic issue around the grid capacity. And last but not least, one of the big issues that we identified was a dysfunctional organizational culture. From a financial perspective, in terms of the key systemic issues that we've identified, the first one was the high level of debt, the debt burden that this business was facing. We also had an issue of having tariffs that are not cost-reflective. And last but not least, around financial was the issue of non-payment. And because of load shedding, we're also having declining sales. On the sustainability side of things, one of the issues that we identified was the fact that we're operating with an outdated integrated business model, hence the execution that we are doing around the unbundling. We also wanted to, and we continue to drive this business to move into clean forms of energy, and last but not least, the issues of fraud, corruption, and criminality. So the reason why I'm sharing this is that, as we think about load shedding, and it looks like we're getting to the end of load shedding, we should not get the impression that, everything is hunky-dory, everything is sorted out. We are focusing on all of these key systemic issues, and we're driving them. And together, of course, with management, these are the areas of focus. And below, we have listed here some of the interventions that we are doing. You'll be hearing from Becky Kumalo today talking about how we have executed and implemented the Generation Recovery Plan. We're looking at things like when we're talking about the organizational culture, one of the important things around that is to make sure that we have very strong leaders, strong and inspirational leaders at all levels of our business. This is really important. We need people that are highly connected with the employees, because at the end of the day, it's the employees that make everything go in this company. We need to make sure that we have people that can inspire them, people that can hold these employees accountable. And that is the kind of leadership that we are trying to build within this company. And we also need leadership that is going to be able to demonstrate, when we talk about high performance and living the values of Eskom, we've got great values. We talk about excellence. We talk about integrity. We talk about innovation. But what we want to see, we want to make sure that these values become things that each and every one of us in this company live by. And that has to start at a level of leadership. So these are the interventions that are being done. But today, I just want to focus really on two things. If we think about the big things, the things that keep us awake at night, thank God we have been sorted out largely by the National Treasury around the high levels of debt. But we have another problem. The problem of municipality debt is a huge problem. This is one of those that each and every month, this amount continues to grow and grow. This has to come to an end. We need to figure out and find out solutions around this. And this is not one of those that we can do all by ourselves as Eskom. We need society, we need the government to be working together with us to address this particular issue. We need the municipalities themselves. It's really surprising us to see that in some cases, monies are being collected from the communities, but those monies are not being paid into Eskom. Think about the lawlessness that is happening in our country. We become surprised, why are we having this kind of a situation? But when institutions, big institutions, companies and organizations like metros, that's supposed to be leading by example, are doing some of the things that we see, we feel that we need to all of us work together to try and address this big problem. The other big issue that we're facing as a country is the issue of illegal connections. Yes, we talk about the elimination of load shedding in South Africa, but now we're having load reduction driven largely by illegal connections. I think those two issues, the municipality debt and the illegal connections, those two, in my mind, are connected. They talk to the kind of values that our society has. You know, the values of being able to go and do things that are not legal, breaking the law, and this is something that our society needs to work on. Yes, we are appealing that we need to be working together to try and address this. And the good thing is that a number of people in government are listening, are going to be working with us, but we're also asking communities to be working with us to try and address this issue, because we cannot continue to be investing in transformers. 2 weeks down the line, those transformers have exploded. We have to go and invest yet again and again and again because of illegal connections. So with that, I just wanted to land those 2 key areas of focus for us, and like to conclude by saying that us as the board, looking at the leadership that is being provided by this team, we continue to be appreciative of the work that they do. They can always, of course, count on our support. What is always important for us as the board, as I've indicated, is this continuous improvement. Every day moving forward, every day making improvements along all of these areas that we have identified as being the systemic issues facing our company. So with that, colleagues, I would like to invite Dan to take the lead in providing the system outlook for summer. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all the viewers at home. I also want to go on record and pass messages of sincere gratitude to the many guardians who have been central in terms of delivering the kind of results from a performance perspective that we're going to talk about today. Also acknowledge the support of all other stakeholders. We have continued to enjoy the support from the NICOM. We have continued to support from government in various ministries. We have very active ministerial support in terms of tackling the issue of load shedding, and that we continue to appreciate. Of course, our work is not done, and what we're going to be presenting today talks to progress to date, whilst also remaining focused on getting to our end goal. As we sit here today, we are on 152 days without load shedding. When we began this journey, we had a number of speculators, in terms of what would have been behind it. We took a view at a time and continue to hold that view. There's nothing dramatic about what you are seeing. All of this is a convergence of calculated moves, deliberate interventions, and we would like to take you again along the journey of explaining to you what is at play here, and between myself and Becky today will hopefully assist you. Our focus remains single-mindedly on implementing the Generation Recovery Plan. It is one way in which we'll move faster towards the elimination of load shedding in the country, whilst we're building up capacity to create the right level of reserves as needed. So for the presentation today, I will take you through some key takeaways to make it easier for you to really pick up the key messages from my engagements, but also some reflections coming out of the period since our last address when we were doing the winter outlook, and Becky will give you some updates on the operational aspects of the Generation Recovery Plan. And I'll close off by talking to you and reminding you of our strategy towards building a sustainable Eskom, because for us, ending load shedding is not our destination. Our destination goes way beyond that. Ending load shedding is the first step that is necessary, but we need to really be building an organization that will live for the next 100 years, an organization that is able to pivot into the new and reformed electricity industry, and that remains a key player as it has been in the last 100 years. From key messages today, let me take you through this, because the rest of the slides will actually be showing you the data that supports this. The first point to make is that we are now at the point where we can comfortably tell you that there's been a structural shift in the performance of our coal fleet. That structural fleet is evidenced by the reduction in terms of unplanned outages that have been hovering around 12 gigawatts for most of the period under review, and also from the performance that you've seen of 152 days now without load shedding. This performance, in contrast to where we were last year, this time in contrast to where we were last December, definitely sends a signal that something fundamentally has shifted, and it is all on the back of the Generation Recovery Plan that we'll unpack for you. We have noted the implications of this improved EAF, both on staff morale, but also on the prospects in as far as economic recovery and economic activity is concerned from a country perspective. And here we list some of the perspective shared by the Bank of America. We know that the Bureau of Economic Research also holds a view that a sustained performance along this line represents opportunities for a better economic performance. There's always a lag, we accept that, but first that you do is to send a signal that then catalyzes the subsequent investment and economic activities in this space. One of the things that we cannot take for granted is the implications of the performance that we've seen in as far as our staff morale is concerned. Our staff morale is improving. This is very important because it is on the back of our staff that these results come through, and hence our focus on always acknowledging the hard work of the many men and women who spent hours toiling to ensure that we see the kind of comfort that the country is enjoying. But I also know that beyond the improved performance, improved morale of our staff, there's also a happier mood in the country, and that is showing in various ways that we interact with society. So the performance since our last conversation has been above expectation, and it is backed up by the interventions that we have executed from a Generation Recovery Plan. Of course, this performance needs to be institutionalized so that our ways of working as a business do not get back to where we are. We have told you before that we are implementing the interventions from the many surveys, including the ones from VGB, but also extending it to the many others. And that for us remains an important process of ensuring that we shift performance and our ways of working, that as an institution we do not lapse back into the kind of conditions that we found ourselves in. Having said that, the long run of no load shedding as experienced also meant that, unfortunately also meant that other fellow South Africans experienced what we call load reduction, and the chairman has already been on record indicating that load reduction, as necessary in some localized areas, has got nothing to do with the imbalance between supply and demand from a generation perspective, but everything to do with illegal connections that are placing excessive load on equipment that is not sized up for that. It is an outcome of the illegal connections, as we have said, and this is a matter that we now need to tackle as society. We have seen, and many of you would have seen, footages of transformers exploding, being on fire as a result of the more than anticipated loads being drawn through those equipment. I think coming to the key message for today, in as far as the summer outlook is concerned, we have changed two things. The first one is that On the back of the structural shift in performance, we have reduced the base load, the base assumption, in as far as the unplanned outages are concerned going into the summer. We have now premising our base case on a scenario of 13,000 megawatts of unplanned losses. This is in contrast to 14,000 and 15,000 in the last two updates that we had shared with yourselves. And it is against this backdrop that our view is that if we keep the unplanned losses below 13,000 gigawatts, we should be having a load shedding free summer. At West, we anticipate that in a likely event that the escalation of unplanned losses reach up to 15,500, will at most experience stage 2. The key message here is that the performance over the last 4 months have consistently hovered around unplanned losses at 12,000. Our power station managers and our teams are very alive to this. Their focus is on controlling unplanned losses, and we should stay below 13,000 megawatts. We should be able to have a comfortable summer. Of course, in the coming few months, we'll also bring on board generation capacity from Medupi Unit 4, from Kusile Unit 6, and the second unit from Kusile that is going through its long-term operation program. That 2,500 megawatts will add significant margin to our reserves. And once we have that, together with the sustained performance that we are seeing, we should get into a conversation sooner in the new year, by March, as to when we can essentially indicate that from our perspective, load shedding at the chronic level that it was is behind us. For now, we hold our heads down. We need to deliver on these projects, and we'll have that conversation going through. The other point that I need to address is, when we look at how we have performed vis-a-vis how we forecasted back in April, you can see that performance has been much more better than anticipated. It does not make us to become too reckless in terms of our assumption basis going forth. We're entering summer. The variables at play that impact on performance of our power stations starts increasing. When we got into summer, you have the high risk of rain and its implications on our ecosystem. You also know that we have experienced rain at levels unprecedented before, as a result of the weather patterns we've been experiencing. Similarly, other than rain, you have heat, excessive heat, that also affects the performance of some of our stations. So the variability in terms of unplanned losses can really move from one extreme to the other, and hence the cautious approach that we have taken in as far as forecasting is concerned. This can only mean that we are much more ready to engage with the situation or any of the situations as they may arise. The last point I want to make in as far as the key takeaways are concerned is that this positive performance trend emanating from our generation performance really gives us the headroom to focus on the execution of our strategy. As said, this business has a role to play going forward. Without the noise of load shedding, we are able to then implement the various strategies that are key to ensuring that we play a role and we do so in a manner that is comfortable within the changing electricity supply landscape as promulgated now within the ERA bill. So our focus is really getting back to talking about the future of this business beyond the load shedding discussions. This slide here gives you a summary of the key parameters that have really marked the difference in terms of our performance in the last 4 months. As you can see, 10 billion rands year-on-year reduction in diesel spend, approximately 7 gigawatts or so of capacity released in relation to the point at which we had the peak unplanned losses hovering around 18,000 megawatts. The EAF has improved significantly compared to where we were before. And you can see from a skills growth perspective, we are continuing to invest in our people, bringing the pipeline of talent that needs to shoulder this business going forward, but also grow our own timber in the areas of technical skills that are quite crucial for the safe operations of these plants and power stations going forward. And we have also increased the percentage of maintenance that we are doing in relation to the previous 2 years. So we're able to do all of this against the backdrop of keeping the lights on throughout the winter period itself. When we last spoke, we showed you this slide as it is. It was our forecast at the time. Suffice to say that the one key message we kept impressing was that we needed to stay below 14,000 megawatts of unplanned outages for us to have a comfortable winter. And as I've said, we have been able to do that, hovering around 12. At some points, we're actually down below 10 for a few days in the week. So substantively, we have been able to control the availability of our fleet, at the same time being able to do the maintenance as planned, even throughout this winter period, with those savings in diesel. So we're going to make this a boring presentation going forward, so we repeat to you, our undertakings, and also, on a like-for-like basis, you'll be able to see what's really driving that performance. Some of you will recall the slide. When we spoke in April, specifically, we, of course, still had some more data points to collect. You can clearly see the decline in the trend when you go back to winter 2023 outlook. From those highs of 18 gigawatts, we're now comfortably hovering around 10. Our focus as we go into this new season is to pay attention to that as well. What is notable with this slide is that the performance has actually improved substantially in the priority stations that we had identified. And for that, we take our hats off to our teams that really focused on pulling themselves off and contributing meaningfully towards the overall EAF performance of the group. We win holistically through the contribution of individual stations, and our power station managers, together with our teams, now understand their roles and responsibility down to an individual level. So performance is now very personal for the stations and is a good space to be at. This graph shows two eras, back to September 2023, from my left to right up to March 2024. You can see the various stages of load shedding and the number of load shedding, for those stages. And from April to now, there is nothing in the slide. This is a space that you want to be in. I'm hoping that in 12 months' time, I've said to the team, we'll show you the same graph. It will have all the annotations and key points, but it will have nothing for you. It's still graph. It's a data point for you to see the progress that we are making in this area. One of the things that is also important, and this question comes up now and again, is to what extent have you been assisted by the growth in renewables? We estimate some growth in the renewables in the period under review. What is important is to note that without solving the coal fleet performance, you cannot solve the issue of load shedding at the moment. So for us, it's very critical that we focused on releasing capacity from the already installed base to ensure that we can get to some point of comfort. As we build this, or as we do this, we now lay the foundation for other technologies to come in and create a total solution for the country for an energy security future that we hope to have very soon. I've spoken about the issue of load reduction. To emphasize, when supply is insufficient to meet demand from a generation perspective, the system operator does what is right to protect the grid from total blackout. In this instance, the load reduction intervention is required to protect equipment where connections and illegal as they are, lead to localized heavy loads on the equipment, and thereby places a risk on the equipment itself and also on the safety of our people. We have to resolve this. It is one arena that we are now entering, and it has to do with the infrastructure. It also has to do with the supply of services to our communities, the payment of for services, all of this intertwined, and our conversations now with government, with SALGA, are beginning to zoom into this challenge. And we want to use, as I said in one of the addresses before, we want to use the same energy and the intensity of resolving issues if we have witnessed from a NICOM perspective, so that we can put this thing behind us as well. So for this coming summer, our prognosis is that if we stay below 13,000 megawatts of unplanned losses, we will be able to avoid load shedding. At worst, as I said, if in a likely situation we get to 15,000 megawatts of unplanned losses, we'll experience at most stage 2. Our focus is really driving this and staying to our left as much as possible by managing unplanned losses and ensuring that the stations return from maintenance on time within the planned schedules, and that the quality of work done in the first instance is of a nature that we don't have this post-outage UCLFs cropping in again. So the focal point is very clear there for our teams. We will be doing maintenance to the same level, more or less, as we have done before. We have realized how great that is for our fleet entering intense winter, and we would like to close off the cycle of a winter and a summer so that we have good data points for understanding the performance of our fleet going forward. Let me, at this point in time, invite Becky to unpack the Generation Recovery Plan progress update for you, and I'll come back to close off on aspects relating to our strategic path going forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CE. Good afternoon, Chairman, and the board members that are present, the media, and also to the viewers at home. I think the GCE has just spoken broadly as well about some of the outcomes of what we have been doing within Eskom as well. So I will just share as well, because sometimes we keep getting these questions about what has been done to get us where we are. And I always want to remind the colleagues that this is the picture we've shared soon after we have received the approval from board last year in April. Say, this is what we will need to do as Eskom to give us the benefit. So I'm sure Dan indicated that we need to be boring with our story, because we had to make sure that this is the plan, and ours was to continue to work the plan. If the plan is credible and is believable, it doesn't need to change based on whether we are discussing the winter or the summer outlook. So I'm quite pleased that the key issue here was that we also said we want to protect our flagship stations. There you will know that there is the likes of Quebec, Peking, Matimba, and Metupis. And those stations we managed to do just that. This has been our anchor stations. Very soon after we have returned the stacks at Kusile joined this fleet immediately as well. So I need to acknowledge our team there as well at Kusile for really quickly bringing up this thing. But if you look at the slide that the Group Chief Executive shared, where it talks to the summary of the unplanned losses, how they've came down, you would see that it's not only through these stations, it's actually the whole fleet. I mean, it's quite pleasing to see how much Majuba and Lady Kendall, really all of them get to the 80s and above in terms of the EAF. And then so as the Krill, Tutuga, Arnold, doing exceptionally well. So it's the whole fleet, really. That's why that structural shift and the way how things have been done, it need to be, because we can't keep relying on the fuel station, but we needed to have the culture that is rolling across the generation fleet as well. So I think the Kusile returns from that and the synchronization of Unit 5. Kusile, as expected now, has become one of our anchor stations. Medupi was always there. If you look at the actions that we said we're going to put in last year. So that brings me then to say, we set the board to give us a target of 65, so we are broadly operating around that. We've seen that we are currently at about 67. So it is the journey that is being worked on. I think hopefully that will answer these questions about what is being done and what is, so that things are not really happening by chance. There is consistently working of the plan, that sometimes the plan things will not go as planned, we will go back, reflect. We still need to deal with, we are going through the outage season now, which is a high maintenance season. The issues of outage slips are critical. And then I think one point I want to make there is that the outages that we are doing is not normal outages as well, because we are at the same time dealing with the issues of major refurbishment. You take stations like Letabo, where we are doing in terms of the emission reduction, we're doing major precepts upgrade and new plans that we are putting in. So going through the commissioning, it will need us to be quite clear, but we are taking lessons as we move along as well. So the last portion there, that will take us to the 70% EAF, because we believe there, once we start operating at that level, at a fleet level, the system should be much better as well. And going through with this, that's why I was saying it's not only about the generation. I think then touch on the issue of the other renewables that are there, but the key component as well from our distribution colleagues is this issue about demand side management, that the team need to continue to do so, because it then gives us a space to deal with the issue of this major refurbishment. We are busy with the control systems upgrade at Matimba, at Majuba, at Letabo. So the outages are not normal outages that you would normally do as well. So Dan did talk about 2,500 megawatts from Kubek 2, Medupi 4, and Gusile 6, very critical, given the stability of these machines when they are on the network as well. So that's where the next focus is now in this next, during these summer months to get these machines back onto the fleet, because that's what is going to also help us in the next winter. We will be in the better position. But for this summer, all the efforts are on making sure that these plants come back to operation. I will talk a bit more about those three, because on this plan, apart from maintaining what we have achieved now, the gains here, and focusing on preventing and minimizing the slips, those three machines are going to be quite critical. This slide here is just a reflection on terms of, Dan did touch on to say there's a lot of things that we have also, because we always want to come back and say, this is what we said, where we are with what we are doing. And we just want to make sure that our story does not change, because we believe in this story, that it's the right story. If we continue to work on people, we work on our plant system and processes, and also in governance, it will give us the benefits. This also encompasses the reports that we have shared about VGP report, WSP, our own reports, Ministry of Electricity Diagnostics. So we've put all of these things to say they culminate into these three areas. That's what we are working on. And the point I want to make here as well, to say, and I always remind my colleagues here, my team as well, that this is not something that you can say is done. Processes are not done. Leadership cannot be done. People, there will be people joining Eskom next week in the 1st of September. Some will be leaving end of this month. So we need to have the processes that continues to work, to say, when you join this company, these are the values we ascribe. The chairman talked about it as well. So if you see these percentages, next time will change, because it's a working system as well. It's not something that I will come and say, now this is done. It will never be done. The processes and all of that, you've seen it on the finance as well, that the plant performance and the integrations, it results into the savings. I mean, we talk about 10 billion on diesel. So it is an integrated thing to see. Once the plants start to perform, you then start seeing other results as well. And the morale of the staff start increasing. I mean, we have our HR team doing independent survey. We've seen some shift in terms of the staff commitment, and as well, once the belief is there, we're seeing that across our stations there is a really good performance. So we will continue to monitor this and build onto it to see are our processes working, where they are leaking. We go back and with our executives within the generation teams across our business, we will continuously look at all these areas and try and see where we can improve. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I think from the 10 slide that talks to the same information as well. To say we said if we are below 14,000, we will not see a load shedding. That was the views that we got from the system operator, who also do all sort of analysis and predictions for the future. So now, hence this year, they said now for this summer, if we stay below 13,000, then the country will not see these high levels of load shedding. So that's what we are working to drop that number as far as possible as well. We have seen the numbers below 10,000 at some point, below 9,000, so some few days. That's what we are as a generation team working towards as well, to make sure that we continue. We are seeing a lot of stability, even the stations like Tutuga. I think it's important to mention that, I was looking at the numbers this week, Tutuga running consistently, now above 60%. Quite encouraging for the staff that is there as well, because once the staff morale is high, things start happening as well. It just breathed in. You could see it across the fleet. So we are quite happy with the support that we have been getting from the board, the ministry, the EXCO colleagues that are here, and also from the public as well, because it's really, the situation was quite tough, to stand on front of the public a year ago was a different situation from where we are. So I want also to say the team there, Tutuga, I'm sure they are quite happy. And then again, I spoke about working the plan. The 3 units there that I've spoke to, we have picked up some problem there at Quebec, for example, Quebec 2. The lessons that we've took from Unit 1 we have applied, but then we pick up different problems now on Unit 2 with the welding. We have experienced some serious delays with the welding, but we are now approaching the tail end of it. Hence, we would want to get this unit by December, given all the risk and the time that we still need to have, given the issues that has have there. But yeah, I think that was one of the areas where we are continuously working with our team there. And then Usile 6 as well, we had some long lead time spares that we have used on the other units that has caused us delays there. So the team we are working quite hard to ensure that these units comes in as well, because December is also critical for this summer. Medupi 4, that's one area that we are using the second-hand data. We've picked up when this comes here together with the OEM that there was some other additional modifications that we needed to do on the pedestals, and also there is a diffuser that is not that needed to be changed. So we needed to redesign some of those issues as well, and getting some of these spares in time is proving to be a bit of a challenge, that because some of them, to assemble this generator, we need those pedestals to be completed. So, but looking at all of this risk as well for this summer, that's why we are looking and say, how do we do all the maintenance? The real thing that we can do is to drive the unavailability below 13,000. That is what we need to be doing as well every day. So, because we still got the risk when you commission, there's things that comes out that you cannot 100% guarantee. So these 3 units are quite critical for our recovery. As you would see, there's some delays from the previous dates that we've communicated on all of them. So this is one area that we are not happy. We have now assembled the teams that are looking at specifically at Medupi as well, that We will allow specific teams that works on that to support the power station manager there to execute this and deal with all these other surprises that come through in terms of how we manage this process. Yeah, I think that is my story, Dan, from the input side as well, and what we need to do. We're still going to call on all the support that we can get as we deal with those 3 units as well in the next, during this summer, to make sure that we are prepared for the future as well. Yeah, thank you very much, Dan.
As I said, the performance that we're experiencing from the generation space is creating the headroom for us to focus on a strategy of taking this business to its future self. A future that is going to be different from the one that we are in now, a future that perhaps we started a bit later to start embracing, but nevertheless we are at that point. And just to remind you and indicate the 4 pillars of our strategy, the chairman has spoken about the focus on the financial and operational sustainability. In this regard, we'll continue to drive the EAF as per the presentation that Becky has just made. It is also within this bucket that we want to tackle the issue of municipality arrears and engage with our stakeholders towards the resolution of this mounting debt that we are experiencing from both Munix and metros. Within the organization, our focus is going to be on ensuring that we improve our controls to address the issues of criminality and fraud that the board has been working on, and also deal with the issues of leadership stability within our business. We need to reinvest in the skills development and also entrenching a high-performance culture. I've shown you some numbers already of the work that we are doing in the generation space. This is something that we need to do across the rest of our business to ensure that we have the next cohort of leaders and capabilities spread across the group as a whole. We continue to have a commitment to facilitating a competitive energy industry under the changes as envisaged by legislation. As we said, the NTCSA is now operationalized, and we continue to support it in its quest to unlocking capacity through the installation of additional grid capacity. We will accelerate our clean energy portfolio ourselves. We've communicated our intentions to build our own portfolio on our land, close to our infrastructure, closer to grid connections, with or without partners alongside us, to ensure that we transition towards a blended generation mix that will allow that the Eskom continues to become a significant player going into the future. We will focus on the acceleration of the transmission development plan, and the NTCSA board will pronounce itself on this in the coming few weeks, also showing exactly how the participation of various sectors of the economy will be structured. At the same time, we'll pick up momentum in as far as the unbundling process of our distribution business is concerned, and also of the generation business. We have lessons that we learned from the first phase. We want to inculcate those lessons to make the process much more smoother going forward, but we are also very clear that the distribution business and bundling is very much dependent on the resolution of the muni debt, as that business on its own will struggle to show course for financial viability on a sustainable basis going forward. So that's our focal point. We remain committed to our net zero path and our contribution towards the country's targets. We've indicated that we've extended the operation of some of the stations that were earmarked for operation closure between 2024 and 2027 to allow ourselves, A, the ability to ensure security of supply, but B, to also do the necessary pre-work to ensure the transition is just and that we do not disrupt the economic livelihoods of the communities within the value chain of the stations. I'm happy to report that in as far as Komati is concerned, having learned the lessons and all the activities to correct some of the mishaps, we are now formally out on the market in terms of the 150 PV plant in Komati and also the 100 megawatts of battery energy storage, so we can complete the interventions that will rekindle economic activity for the community of Komati. We've learned a lot there, and already we are implementing some of the transition interventions at Grootvlei, for instance. We are working on a very clear line of sight in terms of projects that we want to undertake at other stations, and we'll engage quite broadly with all stakeholders and affected parties within these areas. What's important for us in the next few months is resolving aspects relating to the funding approach that we'll take for these projects and a portfolio that will essentially be a portion of what carries us to get over remaining stations beyond 2030 forwards. You've seen this week, you would have seen that we, from a distribution point of view, launched a pilot plant in as far pilot operations in as far as e-mobility is concerned at EAL and also at some of our locations scattered across the country in Rustenburg, and KZN, and so on. This is the area, one of the areas that the distribution business will introduce new product offerings to respond to the changing markets on the back of our capability, our capacity as a business, and our ability to be agile to contend for our position in the space that we're entering. So the path ahead in terms of the next 36 months is very clear. We have very clear milestones to deliver that deals with the work that we have already started and are progressing for this first 12 months. We have processes to conclude to ensure the operationalization of the other unbundled entities. We will get to a point where there's very clear business cases. I will report to you when we start focusing on the execution of those projects that allows us to start the transition in a very orderly manner and also ensuring that we are responsive to avoiding some of the mishaps, as I've said, that happened at Komati. We will get to a point where the transmission business itself is geared up to producing or constructing lines at the rate that is responding to the demand that is out there. This business has done it before. Not so many years ago, this business did about 850 kilometers of new lines per year. We know what it takes to get to that point, and with sufficient financial muscle and the capacity for execution, a streamlined supply chain and the value chain that is readied, we will be able to get towards the target number of 1,400 as we've envisaged. And so Khumutso and the team are flat out looking at those details. That's a conversation that we want to spend more time having with you going forward as we approach the close of this chapter that is characterized by the chronic shortages of supply from a generation point of view. So that will essentially underpin the direction of travel that we would like to have for this business. In closing off, you have seen yourselves from the data a very clear reduction in unplanned losses. That is the bedrock of the performance that you are experiencing. As we indicated, we've stayed below 13 gigawatts of unplanned losses. We should have a comfortable summer with no load shedding at West, and a very unlikely situation of 15,000 megawatts. We may experience up to stage 2 of those of load shedding, but our focus is really staying and maintaining the trajectory that we have witnessed over the last 4 months. The foundation that we've laid allows us headroom, and we really want to capitalize on that. It's an important room for us to take advantage of in the next 2 years for reshaping this organization. And as we go along this path, we remain again grateful to our stakeholders, to our employees, to everybody that is in one way or another contributing towards the successful progress that we are making in this regard. So I just want to stop here and thank you for giving us your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at that stage where we are going to invite questions. So we'll start with all the media houses that are in the house. We'll take 5 questions and then move to the virtual site and take 5 questions. Please, when you do pose a question, just state your name and surname and the media house that you are representing. Thank you. I saw Chris Yelland's hand. Yes.
Good afternoon, Chris Yelland from EE Business Intelligence. Thank you to the Chairman and CEO for the presentations today. Mr. Nyati, you mentioned the 2 big things on your mind, or on Eskom's mind, that being debt, that is the debt that Eskom owes, and the municipal debt owed to Eskom. You also mentioned the question of illegal connections, but you didn't say anything about the biggest question that is on our minds, the customers' minds, and that is the price of electricity, which we are told is going to go up by 40% on the 1st of April if Eskom has its way. Can you please fill us in on the application that you intend to submit to NERSA and to confirm whether or not you are actually going to be asking for a 40% price increase, which may not be on your mind, but it's certainly on the public's mind and businesses' mind and industry's mind and everybody's mind, because it has a dramatic effect. While I have the mic, if I could just perhaps address one other question, and that is that you have announced some very significant delays in the return to service of Koeberg Unit 2, of Kusile Unit 6, which is not a return to service, but the first synchronization, and the return to service of Medupi Unit 4, which, if my calculation is correct, is going to be out of service for a total of 5 years, which is very disappointing, and don't want to detract from the very good news that you have given today about the generation performance, but it is disappointing to see that Koeberg Unit 2 is going to be out for a whole year, which is no improvement on Koeberg Unit 1, which was a very serious situation. My question also then is, when is Koeberg Unit 1 scheduled for shutdown again, once Koeberg Unit 2 comes back into service? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yelland. Any other question? Or Heidi?
It's Heidi Jokos from ENCA. I just have one question. I'm not sure who'll be able to answer this, but there's a group of people outside Eskom, and they apparently have been protesting all morning, claiming that Eskom is not considering them for job opportunities, locals at Kriel and Matla. Could you just address this? Are you going to address it, and is that the case? Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Deneen. Do you have, yeah, and then Katleho. Thank you, and then we'll move to Deneen.
Thanks. It's Deneen Erasmus from Business Day. So I was just wondering, will the switch from the temporary to the permanent solution, FDG solution at Kusile in December, is that likely to result in some load shedding over that period? As will those units be taken offline for a period for that switch to happen? And I'm also hoping to, do you have a figure for the financial losses that's incurred because of illegal connections?
Thank you. Katlego?
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Katlego Logodi from the SABC. I wanted to find out about the litigation that is underway between Eskom and the City of Johannesburg. Is this something that you're experiencing in other municipalities as well? Because you've said that they've been wrong billing, they've been defaulting as well as City Power. Is this something that really has affected your work as Eskom? And looking at the interventions that you're working with SALGA to address some of the issues at municipalities, are these some of the issues that you'll be taking to them to try by all means to resolve these matters before they even get to the courts? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll then move over. Let me just, before we could respond to the questions, take the 5 that are coming through the virtual platform. So I am going to read the questions for the benefit of everyone who is connected or listening to this media briefing. So firstly, we've got Antoinette Slabert from Rapport. The question is, Eskom frequently says it needs cost-reflective tariffs and is applying for an average revenue increase of 36%. How far is the Eskom tariffs currently from being cost-reflective? It is almost a year since the transmission financing seminar. When will these projects start coming to the market, and who will do the procurement? Then we've got Helmo Prios from Business Report. What are the plans to drive productivity, kilowatt hours per employee, back to 207 levels? Has Eskom noticed an increase in the demand of power due to AI at data centers? When will we have a media briefing by NTCSA? Carol Payton from News 24. Do you have a line of sight of tariffs going forward? Does Eskom have a sufficient direction from NERSA and from the shareholder on unbundling the tariffs? Will the large investments in distribution mean large hikes over the next 5 years? Those are the 3 that we received from the virtual. Can I hand over to you, Ntate Dan Marokani?
Okay, we'll tackle these questions as a team. Suffice to say that, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today. We recognize your voice of authority in many respects, given your technical background, and we do note how it influences those who are following you. So when we talk to you and when you come back and also affirm what we are saying, we do appreciate it. We always wish that it could be like that from the onset. Yep. Then we don't have a lot of confused individuals after that. But thank you for staying the path with us. The issue of the price increase, Caleb will deal with it. I think Caleb will deal with it, also including the aspects coming from Antoinette. I'll get Becky to discuss the issues relating to the projects. I can confirm that the problems at Unit 2 are different, of Quebec are different from the problems experienced at Unit 1. And being a very sensitive project, we have to always err on the side of caution. So he will talk to you about those aspects. Let me address the issue from Heidi relating to the protesters outside. The protesters are from Cradle Town. And it deals with the issues of employment opportunities within our space. We have agreed with the protesters, we have since agreed with protesters that they will rightfully go and engage at the power station levels. Our power station managers are empowered to engage with the communities and be conscious of the impact we have on the communities within which we operate. That's why you have only Cradle here and not the others. Be that as it may, we take this serious and we've agreed the way of engaging on this tomorrow. So tomorrow the engagement will happen at the station level. That seeks to find a win-win situation under the circumstances. Let me perhaps, Becky, if you can deal with the questions relating to the project specifically, and also how we're planning the switching over of the stacks at Kusile in the summer period.
Thank you, Dan. Chris, thank you very much as well. And I think I agree with you, it's quite disappointing to see this 3 big units delaying as such. But the good thing for me where I draw is that the team have learned from, if I start with Quebec, that the mistakes or the things that happened at Quebec Unit 1 is not the things that is catching us now as well. Like I indicated, that is more the welding failures. There has been a lot of issues coming through that, but what I've said to the team and the management team, which is critical for us, that doesn't matter how much difficulty it takes. If I have to face the public, we will not take shortcuts on that plant. We will do what is right, even when it's difficult to come and say, here, we are delayed by 3 months. But that is a better and a right choice to do. And the team has got my full support to be insulated, focus on what they need to do there, together with our OEM, dealing with the problems that we are currently facing there. I think I did also explain that Medupi, obviously, it's a uncharted situation. We are also working with the OEM of that plant there to also try and expedite the designs. I've heard their international CEO here with us last week as well. That's the commitment I'm getting from them, that they understand the impact of and the size of the plant as big as Medupi as well. So those are the main two. Kusile, now we are going through the normal commissioning as well. There has been some delays with the spares, but the Quebec and Medupi, those were the main issues. Maybe if I can deal with Kusile in terms of the swapping, no, we're not going to take all of them at once. Beginning in November, we will start with the first unit. We should be finished with them by end of March. That's still the plan, to make sure that individually these units are done by the end of March, going back to the main stack. Yeah, I think those were I think you've dealt with the one for the protesters. Then I will stop there.
Thanks. To Chris's first question around the price of electricity and the application to NERSA. Chris, in terms of the process, we first consult with SALGA and National Treasury. We receive their inputs, and then based on that, we take that on board. We then have submitted to NERSA, but we don't consult on it until NERSA publishes that application. So they are currently still in that process. Once that is published by NERSA, we publish on our website, and then we engage through the NERSA process. So if I then move on in terms of Antoinette's question, where does the Eskom see the gap to cost reflective tariffs? We say it's in the region of about 25 to 30% in real terms, because it does vary slightly depending on the different licensees, be it the transmission, generation, or distribution. And then if I circle back to the other question from Carol Payton, in terms of the unbundled tariffs. So yes, that is the revenue application in terms of MYPD 6, but as part of the process, we also make a retail tariff plan submission to NERSA, where the unbundling of tariffs relating to Carol's first question is addressed. This is what NERSA will also have to consult on in terms of the unbundling of the tariffs. And maybe to Carol's second question, what does it mean in the distribution environment? Are we going to see large hikes over the next 5 years? I think here, when you look at the capital expenditure investments that's recovered through the MYPD methodology, your CapEx is recovered over the life of the assets, so it is phased in, and also depending on the phasing in on the return on assets. So solely linked to your capital expenditure, you're not going to get a significant jump in terms of the price component. I think you also have to understand what are the operating costs that are linked to the tariffs and any other costs that come through policy determinations that need to be taken into account and recovered as a pass-through mechanism. Thank you.
Monday, maybe you want to deal with
Yes,
the
Eugene.
issue of the city of Johannesburg and others.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, just on the issue of the litigation with the city of Johannesburg, safe to say that city of Johannesburg is our customer, and we continue to have a relationship with the city of Johannesburg. Yes, we do have some areas that we are in dispute. They have disputed some of the metering data that we use for billing. We are in the process of settling those disputes. Yes, unfortunately, we had to, because of the seriousness and this magnitude of the debt owed, we had to take the matter to court. That process is currently ongoing. They have appealed. They have received a positive leave to appeal to the application. That process is taking its course. In terms of their current account, they have been servicing their current account since then. So the amounts that's on dispute, they remain in dispute. But yeah, we're hoping that we will find an amicable solution with the city of Johannesburg. We continue the engagements with them to find an amicable solution to the dispute. This talks to the landscape that needs to change within the distribution industry, because municipalities themselves are the distributors. Because at the heart of it, you ask the question, is the city of Johannesburg the only municipality that you are currently in court with? And the answer is no. We've got various sort of court processes against some of the municipalities. Those that different stages and different aspects of litigation. We're hoping to close those. But at the heart of it is that we have to work with all critical stakeholders, COCTA, SALGA, to find a sustainable solution to the issue of the distribution industry, such that municipalities, they have sustainable electricity businesses so that they can be able to service their debts. That is on the issue of the city of Johannesburg. The cost of illegal connections, we have reported an amount of 5 billion as of the financial year 2023-2024. That's the cost of electricity or illegal electricity theft that we have reported. And then lastly, on the issue of data centers and the AI, and whether or not that has seen an increase in the demand. What we pick up through the various applications is that there is an upsurge in terms of the data centers, in terms of applications. Some they apply to Eskom directly, a lot more apply through municipalities as the licensed distributors. But yeah, I think we're seeing the data centers as a significant sort of contributor to the demand going into the future. As you may know, that they represent almost base load. They run 24/7, 365 days a year. Thank you.
So maybe you want to deal with the issue of the timetable at high level for NTCSA.
Thank you, Braden. Good afternoon. So perhaps just on the two questions I think that are relevant to NTCSA. Firstly, the one around the media briefing. That is something that will happen probably during the course of October. And we will communicate further closer to the time and with regard to the details around that event. And then secondly, the question from Antoinette around the transmission financing seminar. There's still work in progress on this topic, and it's actually broader than just financing. There are matters that need to be worked out that relate to legal matters, regulatory matters, and a lot of it we also need to tie back to the NTCSA's corporate plan and financial position to make sure that the overall transactions will be bankable. So that is work still in progress between ourselves, the Ministry of Energy and Electricity, National Treasury, and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, then Chris also asked the point about Quebec Unit 1 outage. So that outage is still planned for January as a normal fueling. Obviously, there is some other maintenance, but it's still planned for January. It's part of this plan that we have shared here. It includes all these units that we spoke to. Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay. Thank you. That brings us to the second round of questions.
Sorry, maybe before you go, there's a question asked relating to the productivity per employee. We have undertaken to the board to actually look at productivity across the business. What I can indicate at this point in time, it requires meticulous examination of the circumstances within which we compare our own data to the ones quoted. We know of the World Bank report that was there on the table. You have to strip the impact of the various states' conditions of the power plants that you are comparing. You have to bring everything into consideration, including the distribution numbers in our case, which is what is being used to establish the average number. So we'll do that work and engage openly with it as it sits. But we have already picked up some discontinuities in terms of assumption basis, especially for the generation space on a like-for-like basis. Our focus on changing our cost curve remains. We have started that work internally because we are conscious that if we don't do that, it will be very difficult to compete into the space that we are going into. So we'll address that question quite comprehensively once we finish the work. So.
Okay. Thanks, GCE. Do we have any questions?
Hi, Karen Sile from Times Live. I have a question regarding an update on the key revision number rollover project. I don't know if this is the last statement, but in July you mentioned that you had pre-coded 6.6 million prepayment meters. Can I just get an update on where that is? And if that means that you are on track to be done because you'd set a deadline for November. But I also wanted to ask, have you engaged with municipalities on where they are? Because as I understand, it is a nationwide project. So have you engaged with them, and what is the sense that you're getting? Because obviously come November, it'll affect everyone in terms of supply. And then another one, it's regarding the illegal connections. I know it is something that you've spoken about extensively. Does this mean that load reduction is going to become a permanent feature until you're able to resolve the issue? Or is Eskom looking at taking another stance in the longer term to deal with illegal connections?
All right. Katlego?
Katlego Logodi from SABC again. I wanted to just understand how you're navigating the issue of informal settlements. You know that a chunk of the illegality would then come from informal settlements that are not connected to the grid. How are you dealing and navigating with this issue? Is this something that may probably, it's in the purview of the municipality, or we see you as Eskom also navigating that one, working with these municipalities? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any hand within the room. Mr. Yeland?
Thanks. Thank you. To Mr. Becky Mkomo. Becky, can you give us any indication as to whether you are planning any life extension of coal-fired plants beyond 2030? In other words, plants that were, in terms of IRP 2019, planned for shutdown before 2030 or by 2030. Are you planning to extend the life of any of those plants beyond 2030, and has any amount been budgeted for this? Thank you.
Thank you. That was our last question in the room. So if we then go to the virtual platform, we've got Vali Padahi, AMU Strategic Advisor and Chairman, NRS Association of South Africa. Question is, Mr. Chairman or Mr. Group CEO, although there will be some risk, why doesn't Eskom officially declare that load shedding has ended after the additional Medupi and Kusile units come online in August 2024, noting the approximate 150 days of no load shedding, reduced unplanned capacity loss factor, increased energy availability factor, approximately 10% reserve margin on 33 gigawatt maximum winter demand. The quicker load shedding has officially ended. In my opinion, investor confidence will increase soonest, which will augur well with regards to earlier investments in projects in other sectors, let alone the electricity sector. Wow. Okay. William Horn, Network 24, with acknowledgement of the implementation of load reduction, not for demand management. What level of megawatt savings due to the lower supply requirements are gained nonetheless? What was the determining factor in securing the required assistance and parts of original equipment manufacturers compared to the difficulties that hindered this in years before? Then last question from Carol Payton, News 24. Mr. Numalo, what role did performance incentives play in the turnaround, and how much spent over 2023-2024? Over to you, Group Executive.
Okay, I'm going to ask the chairman to deal with the question around the incentives. And the chairman, I think, in his opening comments, spoke about some of the shifts that the board had to do in thinking about creating a staff morale conducive to the kind of results that you saw. So I'll just ask him to deal with it broadly, so that it is not personalized or looked at in a very narrow framework. Monde can chat to us about KRN progress. It's a very important project for us. We have kept everybody updated in terms of progress as we go towards the end of November. And we'll come back and deal with the issues of life extensions and the aspects of informal settlement. Monde, maybe cover that as well.
Thank you, Dan. When we look at the issue of performance incentives, what we found when we got here as the new board, was a situation where there were two things that were not happening. One, there was like a freeze in terms of salary increases. We're talking about possibly 5 years of no salary increases. So that's one thing. And in our minds, this is something that was really not right. It's more like what we call collective punishment, and it is not something that is targeted or there was any differentiation. Whether you were performing well or not, you were subjected to this blanket approach to things. We felt that was the wrong thing to do. So this is one of those things that we, of course, decided as the new board that we have to address it with the shareholder. It's one of those decisions that did not reside, did not sit with the board, and they should, but it was not sitting with the board. So we set out to address that. The second key point that we also found was that all of the long-term and short-term incentives had been also removed from the operations. So there was no ability to set targets for employees that would drive specific type of behavior in order for you to be, for the employees, if they reach those targets, then they will be able to earn the bonuses. The management, meaning Becky, Dan, and everybody else, they could not do that. And that is really a problem. In any organization, you need to have the tools that will help you to drive the behavior in line with where you want to take the business. Again, here we decided as the board to take this as an action to address with the shareholder. The third area generally is that the responsibility for determining the pay of employees had also been removed from the board, and it was sitting with the shareholder. Again, in a market like where we're operating, where things are moving fast, you need to be able to, when things are happening, when an employee leaves or this or that is happening, you should be able to be agile and be able to act quickly. And you could not have that sitting with the shareholder. It should come back to the board. So those were the areas that we tackled as the board. Not easy discussions naturally, because there was a reason why people felt that they had to remove these things. But in our minds, if we wanted to be able to fix this company, you needed to bring back the ability to incentivize our employees to make sure that they do things in line with the approved generation recovery plan, for example. So I must say that all of those discussions they yielded positive results, and now we are able we have short-term incentives, and we have each one of the power stations having their own targets around unplanned capacity load factor, and that is what you want. You want each one of the power stations to be able to more or less like compete with themselves, you know. And we have now what I call, when you're looking at a virtuous cycle, where things are happening and they're not necessarily driven by us as leadership, but they're driven by the employees themselves, largely at the back of the incentives that we have set for the employees. So to answer your question directly, it certainly has helped a lot with regards to the turnaround, but it has also helped generally around the employee morale within our company. And when you start to see people going the extra mile, those people are rewarded positively. Those people who are not adding value, those people who are not contributing are not getting, you know, that's the kind of differentiation that you need, and that is what we have now. So certainly this element has helped a lot with the turnaround. Thanks.
Before Monday comes in, the question from Valley, you can imagine, Valley, we've spent a lot of time thinking about exactly at what point do we make the call. We have taken an approach that is based on a prudent way, set the 3 units that are still to come online, material in terms of providing us with that level of comfort. As soon as we have these units back online, we will come back and address the country and give you a very clear perspective of where to from then on. I can imagine there's anxiety around, you know, being definitive. Let's hold on for a few more months. Let's get this work done, and let's have a conversation thereafter. Mona?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, just on the question of the token identification rollover project. So we had to ensure first and foremost that the system was ready for the conversion. When that was completed in March this year, we then started with the rollover. So we took an approach that the customers themselves would actually do their own conversion. It was a sort of a self-service type of an arrangement. The uptake was, it increased quite significantly, but then it stagnated at some point around the 3.9 million mark. This was now, we're talking about end of May. So we then, being cognizant of the November date, took a different approach whereby we have pre-coded all the meters to the extent that when the customer buys the next token or the next electricity, so the digits for the changeover program will be on the next voucher that the customer would have purchased. So it won't matter when that will happen, whether it's before or after the November date. They will have the ability to convert their own meters at the point of purchase. So that's the first part. I was asked a question to say, how do I know that my meter has been reconfigured? When you purchase your voucher, it does say there on the token, on the voucher itself, that you're either on Karen 1 or Karen 2. When you're Karen 2, it means you've been successfully converted. So that's one way of doing that. We are trying to find ways for customers to be able to actively engage with the meter to the point that it gives them a signal that they are converted. So have we engaged with municipalities on this approach? Yes, we have. We have offered the assistance. Municipalities, they form part of the association for prepaid platform. So it is within that context that this is also discussed. So they should also be getting their systems to pre-code the meters so that we can then don't have to worry about the November date. You asked a question whether because of illegal connections and the connection to the load reduction, and whether or not load reduction will ease or will it be a permanent feature. As we really try to make the point that we respond to the situation at a point in time. Yes, during winter the demand is higher than the summer loads, but we still need to actively monitor the loading on the local network to the extent that if there is a problem or identify that we are going into a situation where the transformer will overload, then we need to proactively take those steps to make sure that we do not damage the transformer and thereby having an extended outage. So yes, we are engaging, as I've indicated earlier, on how we're going to reform the distribution industry. Part of this reform is that over the last decade and a half or so, there's been a severe underinvestment in the distribution infrastructure, specifically by municipalities. So we're trying to address that through some means, through the NECOM process, to make sure that we expedite the refurbishment and the strengthening of the distribution network, to make sure that we do not have to experience load reduction. But safe to say, we need to deal with the issue of the culture of payment, number one, that those that can pay should pay, and the indigent households that they do get to benefit from the support through the free basic electricity. We need to make sure that that scheme works and that the indigent households actually are registered and do benefit from that scheme. Katle, one question regarding informal settlements and whether it's in our purview. So it is a challenge for any person that is involved in infrastructure development, because you can't plan for the unknown, you can only plan for the known. What we've realized with these informal settlements is that they spring up pretty much uncoordinated, unplanned, and then we've got a problem that we need to deal with. Challenge being that in 9 out of 10 times where they establish themselves, they do so illegally. Now they occupy somebody's land and they just settle. Now what you always get confronted with is how do you legalize something that is illegal? I mean, the landowner on the one hand is probably going through the court process to try to evict those people. And now if you come in and you try and electrify, obviously now that you're doing something not right. But the electrification process itself, it has to go through the municipal process, through the IDPs. So again, 9 out of 10 times, those particular areas are not part of the IDP of the municipality. So in terms of priority, they're not prioritized. So we are engaging with COCTA, with Human Settlements, to find a way of dealing with the issue of illegal settlements, so that we can then have a structured approach in how we address it. When it does happen that they then start to tap off an existing network, we then obviously get law enforcement involved, as you may have seen in the likes of Deep Slot, where we had to come and recover some of that equipment. It's not a sustainable solution. We need a sustainable solution, hence the engagements with the other critical stakeholders. On the issue of, with the question asked by William Horn on the megawatts saved, so we had set ourselves a target of 500 megawatts through the load management pilot project that we had started in Gauteng. We just fell short of our target. I think we achieved about 450 megawatts. We've set ourselves a new target for 2024, 2025 of 1,000 megawatts. We're working towards that target. Thank you.
No, thanks, Chris, for that questions on the life extensions. We've got the stations that we have communicated that we're supposed to be closed now. That is your Hendrina, Grotley, Camden, that we have moved them to 2030, which was then approved by the board. Obviously, that has given us time. You will recall that on Dan's slide, he talked about us commitment to the transitions to greener energy. So that also gives us time to aggressively start implementing, because we know that it wouldn't have to continuously kicking the can down the road as well. So the board has expected us also to make sure that we are rolling out some of these renewables in our old fleet through repurposings and all of that. So obviously, these are policy issues in terms of when do you take out any other asset or something like that. But from an Eskom point of view, there's no plan to extend the life of those stations as well. I must say also what we have done now, there was no life extension, because life extension involved studies, further investment. This is just continuous operations really with the normal maintenance that we are currently doing. So there's no major investment on these stations that need to come out as part of the 2830 strategy. And then the other question that I've seen there was what are the factors that determine whether things go, that's from William, whether things go to OEMs or not. It is really the risk issue. You know, our plant is divided into what we call level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 plant is the plant that's got the highest risk impact. Like if you take a generator component, you give it to someone, the impact of that, I mean, we've seen what happened when the generator is down with Medupi. So those plants, we have taken a position as Eskom to say we will get this space from the OEMs. Obviously, the rest of the plant, it can be a pump there, not a critical areas that, because we always get confronted with people saying we can do this, which is correct, you know. But if you got a turbine plate, you know, anyone can machine a plate that can look like a turbine, but the risk of that failure on load, it created that. That's why I'm saying the risk have taught us over the years as well to say these plants, we will not take chances on them as well. So that's really the criteria, William, that is really the impact of that and how it is classified as well. I think, Chairman, thank you. He has clarified the incentive part so well that I don't have to add. Yeah. But it also goes with the opposite as well. Like I'm saying, if there's delays, the stations also get they feel the penalty on that. It's not only just the incentives as well. That's important just to add. Thanks, Dad.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think this brings us to the end of our Q&As, and if there's anything that maybe comes to your mind later, Media Desk will be waiting for your questions to respond as quick as we have always responded. And maybe let me take this moment to thank everyone, especially the Media House, for such insightful questions. These help us as an organization as well to just also see how we actually together build this organization of ours to service you also better and the public out there. But as we have said, that good news, if we keep to this current trajectory of unplanned capacity loss factor, meaning breakdowns, if we keep them at 13,000 megawatts, we will have a free load shedding summer. And this summer starts 1st September, ends 31st of March when we get into, we only have 2 seasons in Eskom, that is summer and winter. And may I reiterate, ladies and gentlemen, and the members of the public, that this will be the 4th year, or not the 4th year, but the 4th time that since we started load shedding 16 years ago, we had a free load shedding winter. The last time we had a free load shedding winter was 2018, and today we are only concluding winter in the next 5 days, and we will be celebrating a no load shedding winter still in 2024. And thank you so much for coming through. Media briefing closed. Thank you.